Deus Volt, everybody. Christus Vinci, Christus Regnat, Christus Imperat. Good to see you again. We're going to do another video. I've got my co-host here. And it's going to be about something that happened in the UK that I read about and kind of got me upset. But first, before I get into that, I thought it'd be nice to read about something of our own history, and I'm going to bring it back to that and related to it. In the 1700s, a group of colonies decided that they had had enough violations of their rights that it warranted rebellion. They phrased it like this: "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that government long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shewn that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under the absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security." Though they had suffered many things, like quartering of troops in their homes and gun confiscation, the rallying cry for the colonies was no taxation without representation. See, they were being commanded to pay taxes for the wars that had gone on and for the cost of protecting the colonies from Indians and whatnot. So it didn't really seem like a undue burden, right? Yet that was seen as rebellion worthy. Now, keep that in mind as I go over the story from the UK, alright? I just wanted to kind of set a stage there. Alright, now, I have my cigar, I have my cutter, and I have my Firebird torchlighter. Let's incense the temple.
We can't be silent. We can't be low. We have a promise to die upon. We'll set the fire into a song to burn eternal when we're all gone.
Now, before I start as well, I'm going to go over my cigar. If you don't like cigars and you don't care about that, you might want to skip past this part, because I'm going to leave this in here, because I enjoy going over the cigar. This is a PDR 1878 series Maduro. The PDR stands for Pinar del Rio, and it has a pigtail on it, which, if you can see, is that little tail right there. So you don't really need a cutter. You can just twist it off. There you go, it's gone. And it will leave a little hole for your smoke cutter. But I like ceremony and ritual. And for me to cut the cigar and light it are both ceremonial for me. So I'm going to use my Cuban Crafters perfect cutter. See that wall back there? I get a perfect cut every time. And we're going to do the cutting ceremony and the lightation ceremony. This one is in honor of the poor people suffering in the UK with the story we're going to do today, right? Perfect. And it can hold it in there, and then when you do like that, I can fling it out to spell it. Okay? That's that. Now, let's fire this up. Don't want the fire to touch it. You just want to let it combust on its own. Heat it up. Keep it kind of far away. toast it a little bit, and then we're gonna light it. That's good. I think I'm getting a little coffee and chocolate on that one. That's nice. PDRs have got to be one of my top favorites as far as cigars go, along with Regina cigars. They're very Catholic and very awesome. Alright, now I'm going to summarize the UK story that I read. Alright, and I got this broken down to kind of like 5 points that I wrote down or printed out to summarize. And once again, you see me looking because I do make a script that I can kind of read off of, because I do get distracted from times, and I need something to bring me back. So, number 1. Court seizes custody of Alfie Evans from his parents and makes him a ward of the state. This is from LifeSite News. Yesterday, Alfie's parents relied on a letter from a pro-life attorney saying they had the legal right to withdraw Alfie from the hospital. However, police blocked them from getting Alfie and leaving. Today, Alfie's parents, via their media coordinator, indicated that courts have seized custody of Alfie and made him a ward of the state. Alfie's parents seemingly had exhausted all their legal options to prevent Alder Children's Hospital from cutting off Alfie's life support without their consent. Although Alfie's parents have already lined up a hospital in Rome to provide him with the proper care and treatment plan, British courts, as well as the European Court, have sided with the hospital and his desire to yank his life support, saying he has little or no hope left. His value of life is not good enough for them. Alfie, who was born May 9th, 2016, has a devastating degenerative brain disorder that has baffled physicians and specialists. Alfie has been a patient at Alder Children's Hospital since December 2016. The hospital has asked the courts for authority to disconnect Alfie's ventilator. The parents have asked for permission to move Alfie to a hospital in Rome for further evaluation and possible additional treatment. That's basically a summary. So basically, this kid has a degenerative brain disorder, and it seems like it's getting worse. He's not dead yet, but it seems like it's going to progress. So the government decided that the ones who know best for Alfie is indeed the government and not the parents. Because what do they know, right? They just gave him life, right? Which, in our day and age, especially Europe, why the hell did they do that, right? They should have just killed him to begin with, with abortion. Because that's acceptable. So, the parents said, well, no, we don't want to kill him. We want to give him as much life as we possibly can. So we're going to set up a place in Rome to get him more care. The hospital said, no. No, see, his value has already been predetermined. He's not worth that much. He's, a toddler, I think? How old is he? 16, 17, 18, 19? He's 3 years old, right? He's not worth that much. He's not productive. He's going to die anyway. Why do we want to keep him around? That's costing us money. That's costing us time. And besides, his life, just let him die with dignity, man. Just let him die with some dignity. I'm sorry, this might have some of my Louisiana draw to it, because when I get excited and ticked off, I tend to have that accent come out more, and I tend to curse a little bit more. Not F-bombs, but, a little bit. Anyway, these bastards think that they can just come in, take this boy from his family, keep him at that hospital, cut the ventilation off, the machine keep him alive, life support, and let him die. Which they did. And as it said here, the parents had a lawyer draw up a letter letting them know that they had every legal right to take their son home, to take him wherever they wanted, to get him more care. You know what UK did? They said, screw you, we're going to do it anyway. Because we're the government. We know better. We know all things. You know, I remember when we were talking about it in this country, euthanasia and whatnot, we're talking about universal health care and everything. You know, saying there'll be death panels. People are going to die, right? And what we meant by that was that, well, when you're going to have the government take control of health care, the government's going to have to do a cost-benefit analysis and decide who's worth keeping, who's not worth keeping, because we can't. Why keep this old person alive, right, with extra care, when it's going to cost us this much money, which means the taxes and everything is going to go up. So we're not going to give them any extraordinary, what they deem as extraordinary care. And they were told, no, that could never happen. That's insane, right? Yeah. Insane, they say. I'm sure they said that at some point in the UK as well, right? That never happened. Well, it's happening, all right. And in fact, it's already happened here. I cite Terry Schiavo. They starved her to death. She was not brain dead. She was functioning. They wanted to feed her, and they wouldn't let them. So they starved her to death. Now, what are they doing in the UK here? For the second time, not only are they going to kill him, they're revoking the parents' rights to even visit if they don't want them to, because the mother could. Last I heard, the mother couldn't visit. The dad, I think, recently was able to visit. They couldn't visit, and they're going to take on life support to murder him. And no one really sees a problem with this aside from pro-life people, and I don't see this in the news. I mean, I haven't watched the news so much recently, but I haven't heard a lot about it. I saw it on LifeSite News, the only place I saw it. No one's losing their minds over this. Everyone's chill. Everyone's A-okay. What are we willing to give up? I don't see how the father of this son is okay with this. I mean, this is your basic human rights they're violating. I'm a damn parent right now. You come and get my children like that? No, we're not without a firefight. Violence will be done. There will be blood. Maybe that's more of a statement about how this culture here is just giving up on fighting for anything. Giving up on morality. I forgot who said it. Might have been the recent Pope or another one. When you give up on God, you give up on everything else, right? Everything's going to fall apart. So here we are. We got our nice secularist utopia. We've abandoned any belief in God. We've abandoned any belief in fraternity, brotherhood, and even sisterhood. You know, taking care of each other, community. We've given up on all of that. And so what do you have? Well, government comes in to fill the gap. I believe it was Fulton Sheen that said where religion fails, politics fill the gap. And what is politics going to do? They're going to do this. They're going to start killing people off. Well, that's insane. That's crazy. They're not going to kill people off. Right. Look what's happening. If you won't believe in anything, if you won't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. This boy's going to be dead. Dead. And what are we going to do about it? Nothing. We're going to go about our day. And no one's going to do anything until it is too late. How many people got to die before we say no? We always say, you know what, there is an objective truth, there's a right and wrong. And this shit's evil. Okay? It's wrong and it's evil. And no, it's not Christian to sit back and do nothing. Jesus Christ was not a fan of apathy. In fact, he said, I'll vomit you out my mouth if you're lukewarm, because you're neither hot nor cold. Pick one, right? I don't know how the parents stand it. I've often thought about, I'm going to homeschool my kids, and I kept thinking, especially early on, I was having trouble sleeping at times, thinking if they come for them, because I've read stories where they've come, like in other countries especially, but there have also been incidents where they've given homeschoolers issues, problems. But if they come for them, what happens, right? They come to take them away. No, we don't. No, you're not. You're abusing your children. You're not properly caring for them according to our definition, the government's definition, right? Or local government, or whatever it may be. There's a lot of people who agree with that, who think, oh, that's so abusive. No, you need to socialize them, because they're not going to get socialized, which is a complete farce. It's erroneous, okay? What are you doing? It's horrible what you're doing to the kids. It's funny how if you want to kill them in the womb, you want to murder them, they're all for it. You want to raise them how you want to raise them, and you're abusing them, and we care about the life of that child all of a sudden. Really? Now you care? Oh, it's amazing. By the way, I got this here because I was trying to record audio with my earpiece. I can't figure out how to make it work right now. But I ended up leaving it in my head, my ear right here, just for the hell of it. Alright, now I want to bring up Pope Pius XII, because he has an interesting quote in one of his writings, which I got right here. I'm going to try and read from here. And you'll notice the language, and I'm going to say this again, I'm going to repeat because I got it on my little script there. I'm probably going to end up reading it to myself. The language is kind of similar to the Declaration of Independence as far as talking about rights, okay? Now this is much later. This is in the 1900s. So, Pope Pius XII was the Pope of the Catholic Church, for those who don't know, from March of 1939 to his death in 1958. And he said, quote, "Before us stand out with painful clarity the dangers we fear will accrue to this and coming generations from the neglect or non-recognition, the minimalizing and the gradual abolition of the rights peculiar to the family. The charge laid by God on parents to provide for the material and spiritual good of their offspring and to procure them suitable training saturated with the true spirit of religion cannot be wrested from them without grave, serious violation to their rights." That's a big step. It's a huge abuse of natural rights, natural law, of divine law, because God has given us as parents that command to provide and take care of children. Not the government. It's not their damn job. Mind their business. You don't like the way I'm doing it? Tough. We're not talking about actual abuse here. Okay, physical abuse. Alright? We're talking about a government's opinion that they can do better than you. And in this case, they want to kill the child. For what? They took away their parental rights. For what? Where the hell did they get the right to do that? And how come no one's doing anything? My God. And why do I have to go to a court to beg permission? That really grates me. Well, hey, you don't have to react violently, because you can come to court and argue your case. Excuse me, I need to argue my case before a judge for my own child? I don't remember the judge giving my child life. They weren't there. They weren't providing for that child. I was. I'm taking care of it, raising. And now all of a sudden, please let me see my own child. Please let me have my rights back. Pretty please. No. I'm not going to beg you for what God gave me. No. You are not my master. It's Christ who rules, Christ who reigns, Christ who commands, Christ who conquers. Not you. I shouldn't have to defend myself. I'm innocent until proven guilty. Our rights are God-given, a divine command, a duty. Freedom is doing what we ought to do. That implies responsibility. That implies a duty or a call to action. Apathy is not freedom, nor laziness. Rights not fought for are rights surrendered. Peace at any cost is not peace at all, nor is it freedom. I believe it was Ronald Reagan who said something to that effect. What I am saying is that each man must decide what is the line. At what point do we say here and no further? You shall not pass. When the Declaration of Independence happened, when the rebellion happened, they did so because of taxation. Well, other things, but taxation was their thing. They were being asked, maybe some could argue, not unreasonably, to provide for the government's protection and wars that they had to fight. This is a child, a man and woman's child, son, that is being forcibly taken from them and being murdered. They weren't asked to pay more money. It's just money. It's nothing, really. No, they're taking their child and killing him. And they're saying you don't have any say whatsoever. The UK story is my line. If a government body ever attempted to do what they did, that would be my line. I'd rather my children know I was imprisoned or killed fighting for them and virtue than they grow up knowing I did nothing but talk to lawyers and judges begging for permission to be a father. My son needs to know, for a man it is better to die than to live on your knees. To do otherwise is to forfeit that thing that makes him a man, his honor and his soul. I'll close with Pope Pius XII and Pope Leo XIII. By the way, Leo means lion, and you'll understand in a minute. I'm going to read straight from this, okay? Can there be, venerable brethren, a greater or more urgent duty than to preach the unsearchable riches of Christ to the men of our time? Can there be anything nobler than to unfurl the ensign of the King before those who have followed and still follow a false standard, and to win back the victorious banner of the cross, those who have abandoned it? What heart is not inflamed, is not swept forward to help at the sight of so many brothers and sisters who, misled by error, passion, temptation, and prejudice, have strayed away from the faith in the true God and have lost contact with the joyful and life-giving message of Christ? Who among the soldiers of Christ, ecclesiastic or layman, does not feel himself incited and spurred on to a greater vigilance, to a more determined resistance, by the sight of the ever-increasing host of Christ's enemies, as he perceives the spokesmen of these tendencies deny or in practice neglect the vivifying truths and the values inherent in belief in God and in Christ, as he perceives them wantonly break the tables of God's commandments to substitute other tables and other standards stripped of the ethical content of the revelation of Sinai, standards in which the spirit of the Sermon on the Mount and of the cross has no place. And as Pope Leo says, Catholics are born for combat. If we as Catholics will not stand against such evils in our world and in our lives, in our countries and our societies, if we will not fight, who will? And you're going to have more Alphies who will be murdered. In fact, we already have, looking at abortion. This is going to increase. It's going to get worse. Because we as Catholics are busy thinking that Jesus is meek and mild, timid. Jesus said, buy a sword. Okay? And there's I don't know, it's not a doctrine or it's teaching by St. Bernard of Clairvaux on the two swords. And he takes it from Scripture where he tells them to buy a sword. He says, well, we have a sword. We have two swords. And he says, that is enough. And it's the idea of faith and action. Faith and works, right? Sometimes, yes, we use our words, prayer, holiness of life. But then there are times when we need to pick up the sword. Now, when is that time for you? I don't know. for me, it'd be if they came from my family like that. They're gonna take away my son. They're gonna do it over my body. I would have planned a way of breaking him out by now, but that's the way it is. I gotta go. Train's coming too. You're gonna hear a train soon. I'm gonna finish my cigar. So Christus Vinci, Christus Regna, Christus Imperat, and Deus Vult. Have a nice day.